Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet William Warfield.
It ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so.
William Warfield, renowned vocalist, educator, Grammy Award winner, actor, and musical ambassador.
My uncle had a voice that was very resonant. It was strong and yet it was gentle. He had an extraordinary voice.
Breaking through racial barriers with sheer talent and determination, he blazed a path that few black artists had traveled before him.
That combination of who he was as a person and that musical integrity that he brought as an artist really set him apart from so many others and brought him real notoriety.
In the midst of a national conversation about race, a group of artists, educators, and institutions came together to create a lasting public monument to an extraordinary Rochester legend.
3, 2, 1.
When Thomas came to me about doing the bust, creating the bust of William Warfield, I thought it was a fantastic idea to bring this person to life again in the community, to actually celebrate his life and celebrate his contributions to the music industry itself.
I believe it's important to have a bust of William Warfield because, like his career, this puts him out in front as a black man achieving, being successful.
I think it's very important that we have more sculptures of African Americans and people of color. People need to see themselves within the community, within the world. It's all about representation, all about representation.
In Rochester, New York, there was only one outdoor monument to the contributions of African Americans, a sculpture of the famed abolitionist Frederick Douglass.
Having a sculpture of William Warfield here in Rochester is so important now, especially the culture that we're in. There's so many statues and monuments that are being torn down and taken down because of what they stand for. And so to actually have a sculpture going up in 2021 of someone who gave so much to the African American community and to the world is very important.
Really, I think what's been so wonderful about this project is the partners that we've brought on. RIT, Eastman School of Music, the U of R, the William Warfield Scholarship Fund, the City of Rochester.
I think increasingly at RIT as well as other institutions in the area, we are placing more attention on recognizing individuals from our region who really have contributed to society. And so when Thomas asked if I thought RIT could help with the project, I said absolutely. We would be happy to cast the bronze for this bust.
Once I've got the form in place, it's down to the nitty-gritty of actually trying to create this person's face. You're looking at photographs and watching videos and you're hearing about family stories. You start to play in your head and have a conversation with the person you're sculpting. So I was having this conversation with William Warfield, even though he and I had never met.
During the long process of turning raw clay into a bronze sculpture, William Warfield's life came into focus. William Warfield was born in 1920 in West Helena, Arkansas, the oldest of 5 sons. At the age of 5, his father moved the family to Rochester, New York, looking for better opportunities. His father was a pastor, and he grew up surrounded by music from church. By the time he got to high school, his voice was already earning him accolades.
When he was a senior in high school, he won the National Music Educators League competition in St. Louis, Missouri. And the winner of that competition received a full scholarship to any music school in the United States. And he chose Eastman School of Music in his hometown, Rochester.
He graduated from here in 1942 As a vocal performance major, he earned a performer certificate, which really means this person is a stellar performer. He was an individual who already had a marvelous voice and a real presence about himself, but he continued to hone his singing skills so that he wasn't just singing a song, but he was communicating a message. And that's what I think connected with people.
When the clay sculpt was complete, the partners stopped by Sean's studio for a last look.
Oh my God, this is amazing. It is amazing. It is amazing. So much like it. Wow.
As we talked about, we were trying to find that point in time that's closer to when he had left Eastman. Even though he might have been known later on, but we're trying to connect it to that point so we can have that connection, that vision for other new students who are coming into Eastman and be like, yes, he did this, I'm gonna do this too. If Uncle Bill did this, I'm gonna do this too. So the process after I've done my sculpt, I use the rubber silicone and I paint the whole piece and coat it and coat it and coat it. And that's actually there to gather all the details. So when we pour the wax into the mold, it will capture all the details that are actually on the sculpt.
After serving in military intelligence in World War II, William returned to Rochester to work on his master's degree at the Eastman School of Music. But he was offered the opportunity to perform in a touring production of the musical, Call Me Mister. Although he was welcomed on the stage, he was slighted at hotels and restaurants throughout the country. It was clear that America wasn't ready to fully embrace African American performers.
So while such an amazing opportunity, there was still the obstacles of racism. You know, being a star while on stage, but then being treated less than off stage.
Undeterred by the hostility he faced on the road, William wrote later in his autobiography, "Racism was going to be the racist's handicap, not mine."
He was very focused, especially at the beginning, on the artist he wanted to become, at the caliber, the height of that artistry that he wanted to achieve. He really wanted a career on the stage in classical music, but it was a very challenging time for Black performers. And so there was not really a path forward for him. He had to create this path.
Forging ahead down this difficult road, William moved to New York City and began to support himself by playing piano and singing in bars. But he always dreamed of a bigger stage, writing, "I wanted all the wonders of music, a taste of everything that the muses had to offer." With the clay form and molds complete, it was time to bring the bust to the foundry at RIT's School of Art.
That went a lot smoother than I thought it would. Good
Welcome
to be here.
Sculpture at RIT.
All right, this is awesome. Thank you once again, everyone. I appreciate
Thank you. This
taking
is
the
great.
time and being a part of this.
Faculty and students, led by Kelly Wilton and Elizabeth Cronfield, began the complicated process of transforming the clay sculpture into bronze.
So Sean brought the clay form inside the rubber mold, inside the mother mold here to RIT. Our first step was to take it all apart. I can't wait to see this.
I can't wait to see it either.
The rubber mold was beautiful. Sean made a fantastic rubber mold, which made our job so much easier in casting the wax. Very nice.
All right, thank you, folks. Thank you. We got it out.
We put all that back together, void of the clay head, to get to the point where we could pour this wax.
Nice and even, perfect. Yeah.
So we would take the mold, we would tip it and twist it and spin it. And what that was doing was allowing the wax to coat the inside of that rubber mold and hopefully produce a wax casting that was uniform thickness. So our ceramic shell process is a colloidal silica that we dip our wax in, and then we coat it with sand to create a mold that was strong enough to be able to pour the metal into it. After the shells are complete, we have to burn the wax out of those shell molds, and then the molds are hollow. The wax is gone. We are ready to pour bronze.
If West Helena, Arkansas wasn't big enough for my sharecropper daddy, wrote William Warfield, the East Coast cocktail lounge circuit wasn't big enough for my career. His chance to quit playing lounges and clubs forever came after a show in Toronto.
Most people would think it sounds like a Hollywood story where I was singing in a nightclub and a gentleman just called me over to the table and spoke to me. He says, well, you have a good voice and it's more than this sort of thing. What would you like to do? I said, well, I'm actually interested in concert literature. I want to have a concert career. At which time he says, well, what does it take? I said, well, first a town hall debut.
He pulled out his wallet and gave him $600 cash. And he said, this is a down payment. Have your manager contact me and we will do whatever it takes to get you out of this nightclub.
So on March 19th in 1950, he gave his New York Town Hall debut, and it was a sensation. It had rave reviews in every paper across the country, and so he was really on his way.
We put all the ingots of bronze into a crucible, and we take that furnace up to about 2100 degrees Fahrenheit, and that melts the bronze. The heat and the weight together, it becomes very intense.
The sculpture will be installed in the little park across the street from the Eastman School of Music, there on the corner of Gibbs and Main Street. The bust will actually be looking towards the Eastman School of Music, which is a little bit like the past looking towards the future.
William Warfield's artistry proved undeniable. At the height of his career, he worked in Hollywood, singing the classic Old Man River and Showboat, played a lead in the opera Porgy and Bess, shared the stage with Aaron Copland, made goodwill tours for the U.S. State Department, sold out Carnegie Hall, and sang on stages across the world to great fame. And while he continued performing his whole life, he also knew that he wanted to give back to the next generation of singers. In 1974, he began teaching at the University of Illinois, eventually becoming the chair of the voice department.
So he inspired countless students, and in a way, his career created a path for them that they could not only follow in his footsteps, but create even beyond what he was able to do in his time.
One of the great thrills that I'll never forget was when I started to teach, and I went to the first recital of a student of mine and listened and saw this student give back to me seeds that I'd planted that had become full blown, like a beautiful flower. And that feeling made me go, aha, that's what I'm here for.
I think it's so exciting that RIT was involved in this, with William Warfield being such an iconic figure in Rochester. And then to be able to work with projects in the greater Rochester community in general, I think is vital to the student experience, to understanding how their creative work affects the community and the community that they're in.
Friends, family, students, and admirers gathered to witness William Warfield's bust come home to the Eastman School of Music. The event was ushered in with the vocal talents of a William Warfield Scholarship Fund recipient, representing the next generation of unstoppable singers.
William Warfield's very presence was activism. As he shattered racial barriers in the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s, we owe a great deal to the genius and courageous talent of William Warfield for his music, yes, but also for using his gift in helping transform society and expand our humanity towards one another. We thank you, Uncle Bill.
It's counting down. Let the people count it off.
Right.
4,
3, 2, 1.
William Warfield continued on as a teacher, mentor, and performer until his passing in 2002. His life and work continues to inspire musicians today.
Many study his works, they sing his songs, and they follow his career, and they desire to not just walk in his footsteps, but to achieve even more.
And William Warfield was able to move things forward. I mean, it was his activism. His art was his activism. He opened doors. He sang through doors and opened the way for other people. And that was the way of his activism, the way to make things move forward, the way to create change. He did it through his art form.
Sometimes